Hi, I'm Howie.
Hi, I'm Allie.
Welcome to Opinionated.
It's opinionated.
Well, it's one person's opinion.
It's the correct opinion.
This week we're going to be talking about A Man Called Otto, directed by Marc Forster and starring
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Messing up already. Starring Tom Hanks as, believe it or not, a man called Otto.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys know that Marc actually directed things like Christopher Robin, Stranger Than Fiction, and also World War Z.
Which is her favorite comedy.
It's just epic. The deaths. It gets me every time.
Mm-hmm.
And so this movie is actually based off a book written by Fredrik Backman called Ensomheta Uva. But it was actually turned into a Swedish film written by Hans Holm. And it actually has two nominations for Academy Awards.
But we're exclusively reviewing the American movie made in 2022. We're not really paying attention that much to the book or the Swedish film.
Yeah, but I did do a comparison, and they're almost exactly the same, except the Swedish version is more like Walter Matthau.
Why don't you tie your shoelace? You'll fall on your stupid head.
The guy just, that's how he's basically portrayed. And this, you get Tom Hanks, more calm, collective, but still angry.
Stop! Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
I'm sorry.
How you can make it this far through life without knowing how to back up a trailer? My God, a dog with one front paw and cataracts could have done better than that. And an automatic, of course.
Give me the keys.
So how did you feel about the movie?
Overall, I liked it. I know I did not like it nearly as much as you. You are
I loved it.
Yeah, you are incredibly passionate about this movie. This movie is actually what inspired her to actually want to do this podcast. She actually wanted episode 1 to be A Man Called Otto. I suggested we do something more mainstream. Not that A Man Called Otto is like some weird indie film or anything.
I think it was on Netflix.
Yeah.
I think I saw like one trailer of it.
We also saw a trailer for it when we went to see The Flash.
Oh. I didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
But okay.
I mean,
So-
you laughed at Tom Hanks being an angry old man.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
It's
But-
epic, but I didn't recall that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that every time I asked you how you felt about the movie, you just kept saying like he's just so bitter, he's angry, he's just not like there's not much to relate on besides that he is just mad.
Most of the times that you ask me, like, we're within like the first like half hour of the movie, and yeah, in the first, again, everything that we talk about, big spoiler alert.
Oh yeah.
But the first half hour of the movie, all you see from the character is just anger and bitterness and stuff. But like as the movie goes on, you definitely start to see, you peel back more of the layers. You definitely start to see more of the character Otto, and also the other characters around him. But overall, I think the movie reminded me sort of the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And
The 1946 film.
yeah, like the Christmas classic starring Jimmy Stewart, but
And
but you haven't you've never seen it, and I guarantee a bunch of people from our generation haven't seen it. It's just one of those movies that's like constantly on during the holidays, but yeah, like I'll get into that more after we go through the brief but not very brief summary.
I think we should probably talk about the characters and who plays them before we actually get into it, so you kind of get a feel of who everybody is and what they could possibly bring to the story. So we have, of course, Tom Hanks. And for me, like, I was not expecting him to do a role like this. It kind of caught me off guard. I feel like this is Walter Matthau's kind of thing, but I'm used to Tom doing things like Saving Private Ryan, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, playing, Mr. Rogers, The Green Mile, and of course Forrest Gump.
Ally.
I am not your ally.
I'm not a smart man, Ally.
Clearly not.
But I know what love is.
Oh my goodness.
Like, you and I joke all the time about Samuel L. Jackson and Christopher Walken, and how their IMDb pages are like, it seems like they're competing.
Never ending.
Yeah, it seems like those two are competing for who's gonna die with the longest IMDb page. But honestly, Tom Hanks is not too far is not a too far distant third, because like he's in a bunch of stuff that, like, unless you're subscribed to a bunch of streaming platforms, like you're not even aware is out there. Like, he does a lot of stuff like that people aren't familiar with. And I mean, the only thing he really doesn't do is like action movies. And I mean, obviously he did Saving Private Ryan, but that's more of a drama, a war epic than it is a all out action movie. Like,
he's not beating anybody up or
Right.
getting beat up.
Right. And I mean, even the Da Vinci Code movies, like, he's not really doing, he's solving puzzles and running around. It's more of a thriller than anything. He's not fighting anybody. So
And I believe he also produced this movie, so he's doing things outside of the box that we're not used to.
But like, I'm just saying, it's crazy how much he actually does, how varied his movie, his filmography actually is. So so some people might find this surprising, but honestly, if you look deep enough into Tom Hanks's career, you'll find plenty of multi-varied work: comedy, thriller, drama, dramedy, combinations of the three, romance, of course, all that stuff. So
I forgot about you, Gutman. Yeah. But for this movie, like, there's not that many like big name stars. He's the one carrying the weight, and like a lot of people, I feel like, got this movie added to their IMDb as their first real big movie, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple people that you might recognize from things, but yeah, this is definitely this vehicle is driven by Tom Hanks, and honestly, like, without Tom Hanks starring in it, and producing it, if he did produce it, this movie probably goes like direct to streaming.
Yeah.
So another character we have is Jimmy.
Hey, Otto! Making your rounds. You mind if I join you? I need to get my steps in. Okay. I'm Jimmy.
Malcolm, nice to meet you.
Oh, thanks.
Played by Cameron Britton. He's kind of hard to recognize, but he plays Ed Kemper, the serial killer in Mindhunter, the show on Netflix. And he also plays one of the hitmen in the first season of The Umbrella Academy. And those are really the only two. I'm sure he's done other stuff, but those are the only two things that I know him from off the top of my head.
The Mindhunter, him playing Ed, like, that is still forever just living rent free in my head.
Yeah, I mean,
he did so good.
Yeah, it's actually really tough to recognize him. The only reason I kind of started to like look at him like, is that the guy that played Ed Kemper? It's because of the voice.
The only way I could have those girls was to kill them.
Like, he has the same voice, but he's, and maybe he's wearing some kind of like prosthetic or something, like for obviously they do something to make him look taller in Mindhunter, but like he's also like massive in Mindhunter and in the Umbrella Academy. So I don't know if he just lost a ton of weight or what, but yeah, in this movie he's basically he's set up to be Otto, Tom Hanks's like annoying neighbor who's just constantly walking around the neighborhood in a tracksuit trying to get his steps in and stuff.
Weird.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But again, just like everything else as the movie develops, like, it's, you start to peel back the layers and there's more to all these characters than what than what initially meets the eye.
Yeah. And then you got Marisol, who is Mariana Trevino. She's done things like the new Overboard, the remake, and then a whole bunch of things that I've never even heard of before. So she's more up and coming, and she's starting to really get her feet under her. And then you have the clerk in the very beginning, the guy, which is John Higgins. He's actually a comedy writer for SNL. So Saturday Night Live, he's been doing it for a couple years, and he's done quite a lot of episodes. So if you're a big follower of SNL, he's probably written something that you really enjoy.
Wow, dude. Okay, I'm gonna text them.
Who's that?
Ben. Did he just throw his phone away?
That's a low blow, man. Well.
Marisol's husband, Tommy, is played by Manuel Garcia Rolfo. Now he's popping up in more and more stuff. He plays Mickey Hallen, I believe this is the character's name, in the Netflix Lincoln Lawyer show.
Everyone deserves a defense, Haley.
But he also plays Vasquez in the new Magnificent Seven movie. But I've been seeing him, kind of pop up in more and more things. So I described him to her as sort of the
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, since Pedro Pascal is like, like
up there.
Yeah, like now that Pedro is like a full-fledged A-lister, now Manuel is sort of, the new Pedro, like just starts popping up in a bunch of random things here and there and on his way up.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these characters are, well, not characters, but actresses are. Like the next one, the guy that does Malcolm is Mac Beta. Am I saying that right? I don't know. A whole bunch of small stuff, and now this is the first like real big movie, so that's really awesome. As well as Tom's youngest son of 4, Truman, plays a young Otto, so that's cool. And then we have young Sonia, which is Rachel Keller, and she's been in things like Fargo, Legion, the show, and then
Tokyo Vice.
Yeah, Tokyo Vice. And then we have Anita, and she is played by Juanita Jennings, and this woman has popped up all over the place. You've probably seen her and didn't really think much of it. Like she's in
lots of just guest appearances on TV shows and stuff. But
yeah, like she's in Daddy's Little Girls. What Women Want. She's the woman who hails a ride for I don't really remember what Mel Gibson's character's name is in that movie, but she hails a ride and then like he hears in her mind like all these inappropriate things she's saying. Then she's also in Basic Instinct and Meet the Browns. Then we got Ruben,
played by Peter Lawson Jones, another guy who pops up a lot, just all over the place, TV, small things in movies. His biggest roles, besides A Man Called Otto, are Alex Cross and Judas and the Black Messiah. As far as other movies go, at least. And then the nameless Dye Merica, that's the name of the real estate company in the movie. The real estate agent for that company, he doesn't have a name. Everyone just refers to him as you, or him, or whatever, or the agent, or the real estate agent, whatever. It's played by Mike Birbiglia. He's a very funny stand-up comic, one of my favorites. But he's also been, he's not. I don't think he's ever starred in anything, but he plays like, he pops up in a lot of movies to play like, kind of like the. Because he kind of just looks like a generic white guy, so he kind of just shows up to play a goofy, generic-looking white guy. And so
basically break tension in some movies.
Yeah, but he plays, Brie Larson's husband in Trainwreck.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So you know what I mean
and
now.
He plays a total little dork.
Yeah, so you see what I'm saying. That's pretty much
His weird sweaters.
Pretty much what he does in every movie. But he was also in Annie, Pop Star, and The Fault in Our Stars. But again, he's mostly known for his comedy. Yeah, his stand-up. On the brief but not very brief summary.
Yeah. So I really like how this story starts off. You see him in a hardware store. He's trying to like do everything orderly. I think he even tries to like clean up the store slightly. Like he likes things very organized. So you get to see who he's going to be moving forward into the movie. You see him angry. He thinks everybody's an idiot.
That's his favorite insult throughout the movie.
Yeah, idiot. But we see a teenage manager, and he is just not thrilled with her whatsoever, and she does not know how to handle or satisfy the customer in any way, shape, or form, and it kind of just sets the tone for the whole entire movie. Like we see that he has OCD moving forward into the movie. Like just simple things drive him nuts, like the recycling bin not being, properly sorted, maintained. Yes. Like everything drives him nuts.
And it's so well known in his neighborhood that everyone just everyone is
that's
like,
just Otto.
Well, they're like, so Otto, you making your rounds? And the rounds is him. Everyone knows that every day he wakes up and basically goes around the neighborhood and nitpicks little random things that like the rest of them don't care about, but they just kind of like
they let him do it. Whatever. He's not bothering anybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, he does all those things, and we see him basically just he doesn't understand social cues. He lacks his empathy, and like I read a review that one of the therapists that does reviews believes he has Asperger's, but it's not verified, nor is it mentioned anywhere in the book or in the that I know of, or in the other movie.
Or in this movie. Yeah, he's just shown as being like a guy who just really likes things done, a very certain way that he perceives to be the correct way and the only way to do things, and everyone else is an idiot.
Yeah, he likes that military standard way, like everything has to be organized.
Or at least what people think the military is like.
Yes. But yeah, we see him lose his job. Well, not necessarily lose it, but they cut his hours. They kind of force him into a corner into getting into retirement.
Yeah, they're basically phasing him out slowly, and then they're putting it on him like, well, you chose to quit, and he just puts it back in their faces like,
you cut my hours. You made somebody I trained who looks like a 20-year-old, maybe.
My supervisor.
Fresh. Yeah, that's my supervisor. Like, he's a nobody. He doesn't know how to do, the OCD type situation. Like, yeah, he doesn't do it to his perfection.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get into this, as the movie goes on. It's just kind of a running theme of, like, what Otto perceives to be, like, dwindling quality and how things are done, so but continue.
Okay, so yeah, that kind of the scene, they keep trying to go for like funny little things, which not really that funny, but it kind of sets him off whenever they cut a piece of his retirement cake, and say, "Want a piece of your face?" And he just idiot.
Yeah, he winds up just walking out.
Yeah. And then so we see him go home, and he's disconnecting the gas, the electric, his everything. He sets up for his phone to be disconnected. And then he puts on a suit, and we're not sure yet why.
Well, it should be stated. So in the beginning, we see him in the hardware store. He's buying rope.
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I am getting to that. So, he's interrupted by his new neighbors who are parallel parking. And this is whenever we get to meet Marisol and Tommy. And Otto's like, parallel to what?
Yeah,
because the guy is just reversing into their new home.
They're trying to parallel park with a U-Haul trailer, and it's not going well. Like, he's running, Tommy. So Marisol is trying to direct him, but she's giving him horrible directions, and Tommy just doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he basically just keeps running the trailer into people's houses.
And so here comes Otto, ready to save the day. Like, what are you doing here? Let me do it. So he ends up parallel parking for him. And
they're like shocked, like, oh, he did it first try.
But yeah, like, we see him kind of just disappear. Like, he has no social skills whatsoever in this. Even though we know, he has friends, he just no social cues. So he goes back to what he was doing, and he's basically using that rope that he got, this specific amount of feet and everything.
5 feet of rope.
5 feet, not the 6 that he needed to pay for. But yeah, he starts to create a noose. And then they interrupt him again. They kind of force him to have an interaction with them. Like, she's offering food, and Tommy is actually wanting something from him, but they kind of wedge their foot into the door and make him introduce himself, and then they kind of force their own names on him. Hey, I'm Marisol. Hey, I'm Tommy. Oh, I'm Otto. Like, and then Tommy asks for an Alvin wrench. So it's very strange. An Alvin wrench.
Yeah, and Otto's like, Allen.
Idiot.
Yeah, it's an Allen wrench. And Marisol is like, I've been telling him all day, it's an Allen wrench. And Tommy still, is
Alvin.
He's like, no, it's an Alvin wrench. But Otto goes to his garage and gives him a set of Allen wrenches. And for those of you who don't know, it's like another word for them is the hex keys.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nowadays when you have to set up furniture, like, they come with them pre-packaged a lot, to help you.
Little things you lose really easily. Yeah.
Got a whole drawer full of them.
Yeah, we do. But yeah, like, so he just hands over all of his set and is like, just go away. And then you can hear him under his breath, Alvin wrench? What is this, chipmunks?
Yeah.
Idiot.
Yeah. Oh, like, and then the scene where he's canceling all of his gas, his electricity, his phone line, all that stuff. And again, just introduces more of his personality. Like he's taking the time to cancel all that stuff
and still argue about the bill.
Yeah, and
you gotta argue.
Yeah, instead of just,
I'm not paying for 6 days. I don't need it for 6 days.
Right. And he's like, well, if I'm going to pay for 6 days of gas, I'm going to use 6 days of gas. Yeah. And basically they're just like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's but yeah, it's just, it's just strange. But again, like, the main purpose of it is to show you that, show you his personality, like the kind of like he will find any hill that he can, as far as like forming an argument about something. He will find any hill he can and just die on it.
That's true.
He does not care. If something is wrong, in some way, shape, or if he perceives something as being wrong, he will fight to the death over it for no reason other than because he feels it is wrong.
Yeah, very exhausting.
He proceeds to get on with his business, which it turns out is, drilling a hook into his ceiling and tying a noose around that hook and, attempting suicide.
Which caught me off guard. I was not expecting this, and clearly neither was his ceiling. So, it can't hold his weight, and I know you had thoughts on that.
Well, I just want to say, I mean, you didn't see it coming. I totally did. Like, I definitely figured he was buying the rope at the store in the first scene, because it's such a specific length of rope, and only one hook. Like it just, to me, I'm like, okay, he's probably going to use this to try to hang himself. And then later on, when they show him canceling all of his bills and, canceling his phone, canceling his gas, canceling his power, all that stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's going to try to kill himself. He's basically preparing the way for it.
And that also, that's the reason why he was putting on his suit. He wanted to wear what he wanted to be in. He didn't want to leave it to chance what somebody would put him in.
Yeah. But it also goes to show, his personality even more so that even when he's planning on killing himself, he's trying to do things in such an exacting manner that, he goes through the trouble to cancel all of his bills. He attempts suicide, and we say attempt because obviously it fails because we're only a few minutes into the movie. But as Allie implied, the ceiling can't hold his weight because he drilled it into drywall instead of a stud, which I think kind of implies that, he wants to do it, but also in the back of his mind he doesn't want to do it because someone
the man is so attentive to the details.
Yeah, someone like him would definitely know that in order for a hook to hold his weight, he would have to put it into a stud, not just drywall.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's entirely possible.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
But yeah, the ceiling breaks. Drywall cracks off, and he's just like, he just kind of sits there, kind of covered in drywall and all dizzy and stuff, while he's hanging. While he's choking to death.
Yeah, before he falls.
Yeah, he starts having
just a
visions, flashes, flashbacks, whatever you want to call them, of his wife before she died. And we hear her voice say, that's enough now, and then the ceiling falls.
Perfect timing on that. Mm-hmm.
And then he, after the failed suicide attempt, he goes up to their bedroom.
Well, he grabs a book, specific book.
Yeah, he grabs a book, goes up to their bedroom, and we see that her side of the bed is still perfectly preserved.
Mm-hmm.
There's a blanket over top of that whole half that clearly just doesn't move.
Yeah, and he outstretches his hand, and it's like he goes into another memory of her where he feels her right beside of him again, which is probably why he's having such a hard time disconnecting from her. He's still there with her, whether she's there or not.
And he goes into an actual flashback where he thinks about the memory of their first meeting, where it starts off with him in a military recruiting center where they're doing the medical exam, and it turns out he has an enlarged heart.
Mm-hmm.
So he is rejected by the military. Yeah. And so he leaves and gets a train ticket back to Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees Sonia, his wife. Well, it's not his
His
wife
future
yet. Yeah,
wife.
he sees her running
Running to catch her train.
Yeah, and she drops that book that he picked up, and then he's like, hey, he's trying to shout across.
Yeah, which is impossible to hear if a train is actually moving.
Yeah, he's trying to shout across like, "Hey, lady, you dropped your book," but then he's like, and he decides to run and pick up the book and get on the train with her.
Yeah.
And he finds her and hands it back to her and stuff. And it starts off with him
just standing there being awkward.
Well, yeah. He doesn't really know what to say.
Yeah.
But
and she notices him holding the book.
Yeah. And she's like, "Is that mine?" He's like, "Oh, yeah."
I was halfway through it. I would have hated not to know how it ended.
Yeah. But he starts off basically pretending like that's the train he's supposed to be on.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't say anything about how he's actually on the wrong train.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually the guy the train ticket checker guy comes by and checks his ticket, and he's like, "Sir, this is an eastbound train. You're on the wrong train." And he's just and young Otto's like, "Well, guess I'll have to get off at the next stop." And he starts to pull out money for the fare.
Yeah, but he was dead broke. He was depending on the military.
Yeah, but that's not revealed yet. He just doesn't have any. It's $1.75 for the ticket, and he doesn't have it, so she pays it for him. And then at the next,
hold on. He is changed with a quarter, and she gives it to him. She says, "Well, you have change now," and so he puts it in his pocket, and it's something he actually treasures.
Yeah,
and he always remembers how he met her.
Yeah, when we see him getting ready every day.
Yeah, he's got that.
Yeah, he still has that same quarter, and then he picks it out of a change tray. Yeah. But yeah, so he gets off at the next stop, and then he turns around. She gets off with him, and and doesn't she kind of ask him to ask her to take her out to dinner?
Yep. Yeah. She kind of puts the words in his mouth almost.
Yeah.
So the Dye Merica guy, am I saying that right?
No, Dye and Merica.
That's what I just said, Dye and Merica.
Dye and Merica. You're saying Dye and Merica.
So we have the Dye and Merica guy. He is kind of...
Dye and Merica.
Shut up. He is kind of... he's coming in loud. He doesn't close the gate. He's really on Otto's nerves.
Well, he doesn't even open the gate. He drives around the gate.
So he's doing everything that Otto hates. This is not a drive-through. And so...
And he's yelling at him.
Yeah, he corrects him. And the guy's like, "Yeah, whatever. I don't really care."
Well, he's like, "You caught me."
Yeah. And then once he gets the guy to go away, we see a lady throwing rocks who is she's the girl who has her dog earlier on, where he sees her just walking and he yells at her for no reason. But she comes back and she is basically mad at a feral cat that's on Otto's porch because apparently it scratched her dog. But I see no real reason why to go after a cat. Just move on with your life. But we see
Marsal, she this becomes a recurring thing. Like, she just brings extra food.
Well, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
That's all I thought about whenever I was pregnant was food.
Yeah. Well, I think the implication is she can tell that Otto doesn't really have anybody and is lonely and stuff.
Yeah.
So she brings their extra food to Otto.
I think these are her daddy's favorite cookies that she makes.
I think that's later.
I know that she does it again later on because she knows that he loves them. But I think that's what she deliberately brings him.
Right.
But either way, she brings him food. And her husband is doing window repair of some sort.
Well, they can't get the window open. And so he wants to. They come over to ask if Otto
has a ladder.
Yeah, has a ladder they can borrow.
Mm-hmm.
And Otto's like trying to piece together like what they're gonna do. And the thing is, Tommy is supposed to be a smart guy. He's in IT, but like as far as like normal everyday stuff, like fixing stuff around the house, he's apparently completely useless. And so when him and Otto are talking about what he's gonna do, Otto's like, so you're gonna try to open the door or open the window, and it's the top window of the house. You know, so he
on his second story home.
yeah, so he's like, Otto's just staring at him like, and you're gonna try to open the window from the outside on the roof. And Tommy's just like, yes. And I was just like,
no logic.
Yeah, I was just like, I'll get my coat.
Yeah. And along the way, we see Anita, which is the neighbor. She is talking about no heat in the home, and I was just like, bleed your radiator. And she's like, I don't know what that means. That was my husband's job, and now he's paralyzed.
Well, he's in a vegetative state.
Yeah.
Well, kinda like he's not in a coma.
Yeah,
like, he's aware, but like
he can't talk to you.
Yeah, he can't move or talk really, other than like a few hand motions and stuff.
Yeah. But we see, and he ends up going over and doing it for her, which means that Tommy is left doing his weird shenanigans of the ladder in the window situation.
Mm-hmm. And but also while he's in there, Otto actually tells Ruben, that basically that he intends to kill himself.
Yeah, I'm not going to be around to keep this community going, and so the community that's coming, the rich community, is going to end up taking over, and I won't care because I'm not going to be here anymore. And in this moment, Anita has given Otto a hose that Ruben had borrowed. Yeah.
And basically, and so Otto's holding the hose, and when he tells him he's going to kill himself, well, he
doesn't specifically say, I'm just not going to be around anymore.
Yeah, but it's
obvious what he means.
Yeah. But Ruben actually grabs onto the hose and won't let go.
Yeah. And it's either him sticking to his guns and being like, give me the hose back, or it's him being like, no, don't do this. And it's not really specified. And then we see him go to his garage.
Oh, I guess it was cookies. Yeah, it was cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Otto, the reason he only agreed to help them in exchange for the hose that they borrowed from him in the first place.
To bleed the radiator, yeah.
Yeah, and so turns out he wants that hose back so he can use it to commit suicide by duct taping his hose to his
exhaust.
Yeah, to his car exhaust, and filtering the gas into his car with the garage closed.
Yeah,
and just slowly suffocating to death.
So it basically goes into that dinner, that date that that Sonia wanted with him, and he is so sweet in this moment, and she picks up on it. He's already ate, and she's getting an actual meal.
Well, all he had was soup and bread.
Yeah, it wasn't really much of anything. And
she's having a full steak dinner.
Yeah, he's getting her fill, and she's like, "Why?" Why are you eating that when you could be eating this? And he's like, well, I ate before I came here. And
she's like, why?
Yeah, and he's like, well, it's all I could afford. And I wanted to make sure that you got what you wanted.
That you could order whatever you wanted.
Yeah, and it's so sweet. And she picks up on all of his little cues.
But it's also kind of awkward because he's completely done with the soup and the bread, and he's just sitting there.
Yeah, he's done. He's done with this whole meal.
Just staring at her.
Yeah, and she's just getting started.
Yeah, and she's just...
They can't see your hands, by the way, but yeah. Yeah.
You know, but then he confesses to her that basically he's flat broke, doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life. He wanted to join the army, but they rejected him, so like he doesn't really know what to do.
All cards are on the table.
And yeah, and she, you know, finds that like confession of, you know, that confession of truth.
Kind of endearing.
Yeah. Probably wouldn't be how it actually goes in real life, but it's neither here nor there.
Yeah. So we see a typical thing of Marisol. She ends up banging on the garage door and getting his attention, and he's kind of annoyed.
And it turns out Tommy fell off the roof.
Yeah.
And had to be taken to a hospital via ambulance.
Yeah.
And she is like,
she's wanting a ride.
Yeah, she's like, you need to take me to the ambulance or take me to the hospital. And he's like, well, why don't you just take your car? And you know, she's like, I don't know how to drive. And he's like, you're 30 and you don't know how to drive?
Yeah.
You know,
and he just does it anyway. 'Cause he appreciates being needed, and we learn this.
And also when he says yes, she's like, okay, let me go get the kids. And he's like, the kids?
Yeah.
And we don't see any of the drive. It just clips over to Otto in the hospital waiting room with the kids, just watching them play.
Yeah, and I love how he is with these kids. Like he just falls naturally into them, just being perfect as a grandpa kind of role without even thinking about it.
Well, you said it reminded you of Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, like he's so mean to adults, but he's so nice to kids.
Dear God of souffle, please make that rise and taste sumptuous and delicious. Good luck.
Thank you.
Medium to well. And that's well done. Well done to you. And well done to you. I can't believe just how inconsistent you are.
Like, that's exactly how I feel.
Oh, gorgeous. It's all right.
Yeah.
And then you see you watch
clip over to an adult.
You know, who put a little bit
donuts.
Yeah, to put a little bit too much. They put a little too much salt in the risotto. Get out, you donut! Get out.
Yeah. So it's exactly how he is. He's so perfect with the kids, but he is so not perfect with the adults. So yeah, I love that, but also like, it reads back into how he is with his social cues and all that stuff and potential autism. Yeah, we see a clown come in.
You know, we find out that the clown, like, he volunteers to like make people feel, you know, especially make kids feel better and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Otto is trying to read to the girls while they play with wrestler dolls, luchador dolls.
Mm-hmm. And it interrupts his
reading.
Like, yeah, but like he doesn't like, he likes things done a certain way, and he starts something, he doesn't want to be interrupted. He wants to finish that task and then go to the next task. And this clown ruins that and is very adamant about, you know, doing a
magic
coin trick.
Yeah. And
like we mentioned earlier, the coin that he got as change for that ticket that Sonia helped buy, I should say.
It's a 1964, you know, silver quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And so the clown does the whole, like, makes it disappear out of his hand and then reappear out of his ear. But the only way that trick can work is if it's a completely different quarter, which Otto knows because it's not a 1964 quarter.
Yep.
You know, and so he starts arguing with the clown, and then, you know, security guard runs up and
we
is
have
like,
a clown situation.
Yeah. It's like, hey, we got a 1224. We got a clown situation.
Yeah, like it's a reoccurring thing.
Yeah, and they're saying that he hit the clown, and Otto's like, I didn't hit the clown, and everyone's like, yeah, you did.
Yeah, and it jumps into him actually like going off and hitting him.
Yeah, but
getting his coin back.
but he got his coin back.
Yes, he
for
did.
for what it's worth. But yeah, so Tommy broke his leg.
As he gets home and he's pulling into the garage and everything. He stops, he lets them all out, and he's looking at the hose like, okay, that almost killed me. And he doesn't want anybody to really pay much attention to it.
Clips to the.
Oh yeah, it clips back to them driving, and we have that first real bonding moment where
Between Marisol and Otto.
Yeah, what I was about to say. Yeah.
Because he kind of already bonded with the kids a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. But like, he is just kind of in his own little world, thinking about
The
her,
clown.
thinking about Sonya, the reason why he wanted that coin so bad. And she just kind of looks over at him and is like, your smile is just like my dad's. And he goes, I'm not smiling. And she goes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which kind of just melts him a little bit. Kind of finally starts knocking down that barrier.
So the next day rolls around, and Jimmy and Marisol find the cat. It's almost dead, almost frozen.
In the snow. Yep.
Otto is out doing his rounds.
Yeah.
And so he gets roped into them wanting to help the cat.
Yeah.
They get into the house, and like
Jimmy's big idea is to put the cat in the oven to warm it up.
No. I think
That's what he says.
right. No, that's what Otto. Well, hold on. I thought Marisol just wanted to turn on the oven to get some heat in the house because his house is so cold because he cut off the electricity. I thought that's what it implied.
But
did I miss?
Jimmy straight up said, "Let's put the cat in the oven to warm it up." Yeah.
Did I miss that? That's
yeah.
Wow. That's dumb.
Yeah. And Otto's like, "What? No, you're not putting a cat in my oven."
Oh, that's crazy. That ain't real. That's dumb. That's straight dumb. You're dumb.
But yeah, it is for the reason that the house is cold because, he turned everything off.
That's dumb.
That's real dumb.
But yeah, so and Jimmy starts to like body heat it.
Yeah.
Try to get back alive. Marisol's like, I can't take it. I got 2 kids and I'm pregnant. I can't handle it. And Tommy can't walk right now.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy gets voluntold.
Well, yeah, because like they want Otto to take it, but I was like, nope, your problem.
Yep.
And so Jimmy winds up taking it, but
it's like, oh yay.
Yeah, but the next day turns out Jimmy is.
Yeah, but that's later on.
Right. Well, I'm just saying,
yeah.
like Otto eventually does get
Yeah.
the cat because Jimmy is allergic. Like the next day,
allergic.
the next day they show him like covered in a rash, and he's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm actually extremely allergic.
Something like that. That's the first thing that hits my mind.
Yeah, a lot of allergies.
Because I have a cat allergy to specific cats. And so, yeah, the dander gets to me. So as soon as I see a cat, I'm like, ooh. And the fact that Jimmy forgot is just beyond me.
But yeah, so
we see, there's a part in this where Jimmy admits and just blurts to Marisol that Sonya recently died within the last 6 months.
Yeah. Well, because
and so now Marisol just pieces everything together of why he is so bitter and mean, and he's very standoffish, and he wants nothing to do with anybody. Like, he's pushing everybody away for a reason, and it's because of her.
Well, because Marisol tries to warm up the cat with one of Sonya's old coats.
Oh yeah.
And Otto's like, no, don't touch that. Leave it there.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, Jimmy is like, yeah, that's Sonya's.
Yeah.
But yeah, so,
like you remember things and I remember different things. But what were we gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna move on.
Okay.
But yeah, Otto, what memory does he go into? it's not really sometimes the time jumps aren't really clear. It might be later on that same day, it might be the next day, but either way, later on, Otto goes to the train station. And as he's parking, he starts a memory of him and Sonia in the car together after he just graduated with a degree in engineering. And
he's kind of doing his social awkwardness where he's not really sure what to say, but he knows he wants to say something, and he's heading towards, I just graduated and I kind of want to, move forward in my life.
Yeah, his exact verbiage is, "What do you ever think about getting married?"
Yeah.
Or how do you feel about getting married or something like that? And she's like, "How about you try again and ask me properly?"
Yeah.
And so he does, and she says yes, and they're all excited, and then come back to the present day, and he's on the train platform.
Yeah.
And it becomes apparent that he is there to essentially dive onto the tracks at the last possible second and get hit by a train. But as he's sitting there waiting, another guy comes up and basically like he kind of faints onto the tracks. Like, he's on the platform and he's sick, and it's a man who's apparently even older than Otto. And he's coughing, and he just kind of faints.
Yep.
Onto the train tracks.
And this is so realistic to current day. Like, everybody's pulling out their phone. Nobody's jumping into action. They want to record the action instead.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh my God.
Get your phone.
Well, no, they're like,
record
oh my God,
this.
somebody help this man. What? Oh my God, somebody do something. And nobody does it. Otto jumps down.
Yeah, that was Otto. Otto's like, do something, anybody. And nobody's doing anything. But yeah, he jumps down.
Yeah, he jumps down. Gets he helps the guy get to his feet so that other the people on the platform can pull him up. And then Otto just kind of stands there on the train tracks, like basically intent on waiting for the train to hit him.
Yeah, his goal was coming into action right then and there.
Yeah, and then
no one's really paying attention to him though, as the first train on the other side of the tracks go by.
Yeah, but then some guy is like, grab my hand, man, come on.
Mm-hmm. And I believe he's going into some form of memory, because he doesn't hear anything the guy's saying. Or is he just standing there?
No, he's just standing there. He's got that determined, like he's staring down the train. He's like,
yeah.
And
so he doesn't really hear the guy until the very last second, and he's making that decision: do I want to end it now or not?
Yeah, and then the guy's like, "Come on, man, give me your hand," and he kind of like, he does this, like, he snaps out of it and like grabs his hand and he pulls him up and stuff.
The very last second, yeah.
And everyone's trying to record Otto, and Otto doesn't want any of it.
Yeah,
he just walks away, walks back to his car, and goes back home, and that's the end. Well, actually, he goes to visit his wife's grave, and he actually says, like, I'm trying to get up to you, but it's a lot harder. This is the exact verbiage of the movie. He's like, I'm trying to get up there with you, but it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. Because every single suicide plan he's had has been foiled by something. So.
Yeah, and most of the time it's Marisol just pushing her friendship on him and interrupting his suicide attempts.
Yeah.
If it's not, him messing up his suicide attempts.
Yeah.
Possibly deliberately.
But yeah, then we go to the next day, and this is when Jimmy reveals that he's allergic to the cat.
Yeah.
And so they pretty much dump the cat with Otto, and Otto, like, begrudgingly is like, oh, okay. And
I really like this scene because
we're animal people. We're pet people. So.
Yeah. Well, I like how Otto is with the cat, just trying to pick it up. Like, he does the body language of, okay, instead of like the woman earlier who was just trying to just be way too aggressive and try to harm the cat. Instead, he's actually like open to, having the cat. And so he's gentle about this whole situation, which most people who are not animal people, like, he's acting like he is. Like, he's acting like he's not an animal person. Like, they're normally really aggressive and they try to get rid of it. Instead, he actually takes it on. And he's like, okay, I'll do it.
We also see in a very brief flash and a flashback that they had a cat, him and Sonia.
Oh.
Do you remember? You don't remember that? Yeah. Like, it shows him, shows like a close-up of him petting a cat in one of their flashbacks.
Okay.
Yeah. You're probably typing these notes.
Yeah, probably.
It's literally, it's very quick.
Okay.
It's very quick, and it becomes apparent. It becomes a like, and it like, to me it signals like he doesn't want a cat because it would remind him of Sonia, but also
he's going to do it because of her.
Well, maybe, but it's like, I mean, they kind of
the story. That's the theme. He does it for her.
Well, yeah, but also like I think he also just he's still intending on killing himself. He doesn't want basically the burden of another living being on him when he's intending to die,
so we see Otto and the cat kind of becoming more familiar, and the cat's rubbing up against Otto's leg.
Well, and the cat is trying to lay on Sonia's side of the bed, and Otto's like, no. And he literally brings out like a hand towel and folds it in half and sets it on the ground by their bed. It's like, this is your bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. If any of you don't have cats, like, that doesn't fly.
Not happen. Yeah.
They kind of
do
just
whatever they want.
Yeah, they do what they want.
You can fight them all day.
Yeah. But yeah, but eventually, like, Otto, just kind of grows to like, just like the cat grows on him essentially. Just like all the other people in this movie, like, they all eventually just kind of grow on him enough to where he's like, okay.
Yeah.
So the one character that we mentioned at the beginning, but we haven't really brought up because he's played a small role up until now, is Malcolm. So Malcolm, Otto actually yells at the beginning of the movie because he leaves his bike unattended for like half a minute because Malcolm is a paper boy. And he's he's not even like a paper boy. He's just throwing advertisements, really. And and Otto hates like all the paper in his lawn, and so we come outside, and we get an actual conversation between Otto and Malcolm where Malcolm explains that that Sonia
was his teacher.
Yeah, was Malcolm's teacher, and was the first teacher that accepted him for being transgender, and got all the other teachers to accept him as well.
And that really hit Otto.
And
really
so
hit him pretty deep.
Yeah, and Malcolm agreed to stop throwing ads into his yard, and Otto. But yeah, like you said, Otto was really moved by it.
Yeah. This random kid in the neighborhood is another connection to his late wife. So that really sparked something in him. But then we see a few moments later,
Marisol's getting a driving lesson from another guy in the neighborhood who's we didn't mention him because he's kind of irrelevant. Like, he shows up for this scene and then like one other scene, and like doesn't really matter. But he's trying to teach Marisol how to drive, but he has her driving down the wrong way of like, so the neighborhood is supposed to flow in a circle. Like, you come in this gate and then it flows all the way around, so you go out that gate. And he had Marisol come in on the wrong side, and obviously that makes Otto unhappy. And then and basically, she's excited because she's being taught how to drive by somebody. She actually wanted Otto to do it before, but I was like, no, go away. And I mean, he doesn't say that, but that's essentially what he says.
And once he spots them, like, this is a moment where she doesn't really figure out how to put the vehicle in park.
Yeah.
It's a stick shift, so she was a little confused, and so like this, we see the vehicle continue to move, and the person teaching her is like throwing it into gear and stopping the vehicle, and he's like, "Put it in park," as he's walking up to him.
Well, I don't think it's specified that car is a stick. I think, but
Well, that's what they're yelling.
Well, yeah, they're yelling, "Put it in park." With so she definitely, regardless of what she's driving, she definitely forgets to put it in park.
Yeah.
And just gets out of the car.
Yeah,
it's like, I've been learning how to drive.
Moving. She's pregnant. She almost falls over. It's a whole ordeal.
Yeah, and the guy that's trying to teach her is like, has to hop over to the next seat.
Yeah.
And basically Otto, after that happens, like, comes over, barges into their home, and is like, I'm gonna teach you how to drive.
Yeah, and she brings snacks.
Yeah. Like, he's literally like, I'm not, like, if you're gonna be taught how to drive, you might as well not be taught by an idiot.
Yeah, because everybody's an idiot.
Yeah. So and so we see him trying to teach her how to drive, and honestly, like, this scene takes up a huge chunk of the trailers any trailers that you may have seen for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
This scene takes up a majority of that trailer.
Yeah, we get to see, Otto at his best of being angry.
Yeah, and it makes it, like, honestly, it kind of gives the impression that the movie is different than what it is.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know how I feel about watching that. That's why I kind of just slipped my mind.
Yeah, like, it makes it seem like it's just a comedy where Tom Hanks is grumpy.
Yeah,
and that's the movie's really much more complex.
Off his hinges a little bit.
The movie's really much more complex than this. But this is a scene that dominates most of the trailers, at least that I've seen for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's funny. It's definitely funny.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if that's the only scene this movie, it gives the complete wrong impression of the movie.
Yeah.
And because I thought based on the trailer that Tom Hanks was playing a driving instructor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, before I ever saw the movie, like, just based on the preview, I thought, okay, he's playing like a driving instructor, and he's tired, and he hates his life because he's teaching a bunch of people who don't know how to drive. He spends his life just teaching idiots how to drive.
Yeah, and you're very attentive to the details, so the fact that you thought that means they really did poorly on this trailer.
Well, I mean, his work isn't really relevant to the movie, so yeah. I just assumed it based on, because like I said, the any trailer you see, like, at least that I've seen, this scene dominates the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because Otto only drives stick shift vehicles. Yeah. He doesn't drive automatics, and so he's teaching her how to drive stick.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's constantly like, okay, clutch. Okay.
Which gear?
And he's like, clutch, brake, clutch, brake, shift, gas, and it's just overwhelming her. Yep. And he's like, stop, the vehicle's stopping, stop. And
they're coming up to a red light, and there's a vehicle in front of them.
Yeah. But they don't get in a wreck, and
he slams their emergency brake after she just kind of lets go a little bit. And I think she finally figures it out as he's pressing.
Well, yeah, and he kind of has his version of a motivational talk with her, like, basically giving the highest compliment that he can give somebody is basically saying, "You are not an idiot."
Yeah.
And so
you're not a complete idiot.
Now you listen to me. You have given birth to 2 children. Soon it'll be 3. You have come here from a country very far away. You learned a new language, you got yourself an education and a nitwit husband, and you are holding that family together. You will have no problem learning how to drive. My God, the world is full of complete idiots who have managed to figure it out, and you are not a complete idiot.
Yeah, that's what he says. And he's basically like, look, anybody who's not unless you are a complete idiot, you can figure out how to drive stick shift, and you are not a complete idiot. You know, but while that's happening, like a truck behind them is honking because the light is green, and he gets out, yells at the guy.
He loses his mind, and it's the clown incident all over again.
Yeah, and he gets back into the vehicle, and you know, now that she's taking a breath, like he's giving her confidence, she's calm. She starts doing everything more calm, one step at a time, and he's like, you see how nice that is. And then he takes her to a pastry shop or bakery or whatever, and they get Swedish eclairs, which I feel is a nod to the book and movie being, you know, the original book and movie being set in Sweden and stuff.
He kind of explains Ruben and his relationship in general, and like what happened originally to start everything, which was, you know, the Birchwood community above them, just everything being, all the trees being taken down, and it's like a rich community near them, and like what they're doing is still ongoing, and they're trying to take over their community as well. So that's what he's explaining to her, while also talking about, you know, vehicles. Yeah, the
Birchwood community / Dye Merica, like the people who are developing the Birchwood community, they're the closest thing you have to like a villain in this movie. Like this movie,
you know, Tom Hanks, his character hating himself.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
He's his own villain.
Right, but yeah, this movie's more of a, it's not a, you know, bad guy versus good guy type of scenario. It's more of a character examination than anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and he explains to her, this is where he explains to her that he lost his wife 6 months ago, right? To cancer. Or is that later?
Yeah, I remember him saying cancer. So yeah.
Yeah, and then, but when she asks him if they had any kids, like that's when like he cuts the conversation off and, you know, basically goes to pay their bill. You know. So yeah, but he explains, you know, with that him and Ruben used to be friends and bonded over cars, and actually they had the same kind of personality. Like they were both really sticklers for the neighborhood rules and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like in the moments that they do memories of, like Otto is a big Chevy guy and Ruben is a big Ford guy. Yeah, and then what really takes the cake is Ruben goes and buys a Toyota, and it's the game changer of everything. It destroys all respects Otto has for Ruben, and just friendship over, it's done, and he just walks away from him.
Yeah, like that happens when Ruben he's going to him to basically try to patch things up because Ruben and Anita like don't get along with their son. Their son took a job in Japan.
Yeah, Chris.
And hasn't talked to them since, really. And basically, since Otto knows this, it's a small community, so everybody kind of knows everybody and everything about everybody. So Otto goes to, you know, patch things up with him, and that's when he reveals that he bought a Toyota, and Ruben literally takes the bottle of bourbon that they meant to drink, that he meant for them to drink together, and just walks away. And then, and yeah, that's like the end of their friendship. But yeah, so Marisol and Tommy want to go on a date because
she's very, very pregnant now.
Yeah, it's the last opportunity they'll have to go on a date before the baby comes, and so they convince Otto to babysit.
And this is where we kind of see where Tommy is, you know, still unreliable on basic everyday like situations, like the dishwasher. They need to install a dishwasher since they're still kind of moving in and getting familiar.
Yeah, well, the kids, like Otto sees the dishwasher is like way separate from where it's supposed to be in the kitchen, and he asked the two daughters, like, what's that about? And they say, that's the goddamn useless piece of junk dishwasher.
Clearly Tommy has lost his cool over this thing.
And he's like, well, funny line is like, yeah, Dad wants to throw that thing out the window, but Mom says he's not allowed to go near the windows anymore.
Yeah.
But so Otto is learning a bit of Spanish from the younger daughter, while the older daughter plays with their luchadore action figures. But then eventually, Otto starts playing with the action figures too. And then clip over, Marisol and Tommy are back home, and Otto fell asleep with the kids up in their bedroom reading to them and stuff.
They fell asleep first.
Yeah, and and you know, and he just kind of leaves, but then it turns out that he installed their dishwasher for them.
And we see Tommy kind of, whoa, how'd that happen? Like he didn't expect it to happen. Otto was around.
Yeah. Next day, there's a social media journalist trying to find Otto because of him saving a guy's life.
Yeah, on the train tracks.
And she asked Jimmy, like, can I find Otto Anderson? And Jimmy's like, are you sure you want to do that?
Deliberately?
Yeah. And so she finds him, and she finds him right after Otto helps Malcolm fix his, like, not just fixes it for him, but shows him how to fix it and maintain it, fixes his busted bike.
Yeah, he's like, this specifically is wrong with it. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it.
And Malcolm tells him that he has, besides the job with the bike, he has 2 other jobs. Yeah. And he's like, what 2 jobs isn't enough? And Malcolm's like, I'm saving up for a car. And Otto starts to get into, oh yeah, what kind? And Malcolm says, a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
And I was like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty good part.
Yeah. But then the social media journalist, you know, is talking to him, wants to interview him about saving the guy's life. And I was like, get away from me, go away, all that
just
stuff.
Locks her, doesn't lock her, but he shuts the garage door on her. And it's like, you can get out. Just lift the latch and lift it up, you idiot.
Yeah. Just you never turned a doorknob before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Marisol offers to help Otto clean out his home. Like, she sees him, shut the journalist in, and then, you know, she opens up and walks out, and Marisol's like, I can, you know, basically offering to help him pack up Sonia's stuff, you know, to help him move on. And,
she goes into a spiel of how her, I believe her dad...
her mother stopped living after her dad died.
Oh, so I had it backward.
Yes.
Okay.
So Marisol is like, you know, I think it would really help you move on. And I was like, I don't want to move on. There is no moving on. Like,
there's nothing before her, nothing after her.
Yeah.
She was it.
And then while he's upset about that, the Dye Merica real estate guy.
In again.
Yeah, he comes in, and like he comes in, he clearly left the gate open, and Otto's yelling at him, like he transfers his anger to Marisol over to that guy, and like doubles his anger. He's like, you left the gate open, you know, and the real estate developer Mike Birbiglia is like, look, I know you're the only one who actually cares, you know, and he, you know, and basically Otto's like, well, you know, is that what you so you think you know everything or whatever, and the guy's like,
I know you have an enlarged heart.
Yeah, like he starts throwing out all this like really
information he should not know.
Yeah, really private information about not just Otto but other people in the neighborhood.
Yep.
And
how do you know that?
Yeah, and Otto like he starts getting dizzy, lightheaded, starts feeling his chest, and Marisol gets very concerned, but Otto just ignores her and runs into his house, and she's still banging on the door, banging on the windows, trying to get him to like talk to her, and he just ignores her. He goes up into his attic, where we see baby, a wooden baby crib, rocking crib that that wrapped in plastic, and Otto pulls out a very old. So some people are gonna look at it and think it's a shotgun. It's actually an old hunting rifle. It's not here nor there. I'm just gonna point that out. Like, it's not a shotgun, people. It's a old hunting rifle. And he takes the plastic off the crib and he uses that to basically cover up, the room again, planning to now shoot himself. This is the only time where he plans to kill himself and doesn't like get dressed for it. He basically realized it doesn't freaking matter. I mean, for this one, it really doesn't matter because he's gonna get if he shoots himself, it's splatter everywhere. So.
But I think everything that Marisol is just kind of digging at is really just, it's done deal. He's done and over with it. He doesn't want to move on from Sonia. He's like he said, there's nothing after her, so he's just ready to go.
And so he's getting to the point where he's lowering his chin onto the barrel of the gun or the rifle, and he again has one of these flashback memories, but this time it's of a bus crash. We finally see that Sonia
we
died.
finally see that Sonia.
Well, Sonia didn't die like tragically from some kind of accident. Like they had a bus crash when she was very pregnant, and they lost their child, and Sonia was paralyzed. And but basically, and we hear Sonia's voice say, basically, like, you're angry and sad, and so am I, but now we have to live. And so he's just kind of sitting there ruminating on that thought.
Yeah, and the rifle's just kind of moving back and forth on his chin.
And then Malcolm, knocks on the door really loud, and it startles him, and he shoots the rifle. Yeah, and he answers the door with the rifle, and Malcolm's like, he's like,
generator just blew.
Yeah, generator just blew. Don't worry, I'm not gonna shoot you.
Yeah.
And Malcolm says that he needs a place to crash because his dad just kicked him out for being transgender, and
his loss.
Yeah, and Otto's just like, come on up. You can use the couch in Sonia's study, and he's like, don't go into the living room. That room's under repair.
Yeah.
But while Malcolm's there, sleeping, he cleans up the room, takes all the plastic off the walls and stuff, and goes to bed. He wakes up, and Malcolm is cooking him breakfast.
Yeah, we don't have any heat still, so just made it this way, and
yeah, again using the 6 days of gas.
Yeah.
for the stove.
Yeah.
And he's saying, like, I'm using the last of the eggs before they go bad. Because it's obvious that Otto also hasn't bought himself more food because, again, he intends to kill himself.
Yep. Now we see Otto just kind of take Malcolm on as one of his own. Starts teaching him
under his wing.
Yeah. Well, just teaching him like he's his own kid. But he teaches him his routine of, checking gates, checking parking passes, making sure recycling's good, all the trash is in the right spot. Like, he teaches him all the stuff.
Well, and Jimmy comes along, too.
Yeah, of course Jimmy does.
Like, and basically...
He's got to get his steps in.
Yeah. Yeah, like, like, Jimmy is like, you doing your rounds, Otto? Mind if I come along? I got to get my steps in. And Otto doesn't really say anything. He just lets him follow anyway. And he shows, he's like, plastic, all right, this one, paper, this one, and they check the gate, like you said, checking parking like all the weird neurotic stuff that he does throughout the movie. He shows him exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And
in this moment, like after all that stuff, but Jimmy is kind of like, Anita has Parkinson's, and Otto's like, when that happen? And James is like, well, she's had it for a year, and he's like, no, that's not right.
Because Sonia was alive, and Sonia would have told me.
Yeah, and so Jimmy just kind of spills the beans to Otto, that Chris, their kid that went away, actually plans on selling the house.
So, but yeah, Chris.
Chris is being convinced by
Dye Merica.
Merica.
Well, like he doesn't even really like his parents, so he's just and he convinced his parents to give him power of attorney.
Yep.
For when Anita's Parkinson's starts getting worse and she can't take care of herself or Ruben.
Yep.
And basically he's so he's selling the house out from under them and basically putting them into a home.
Yeah.
Ruben is going to go into like a special facility for people like him, and then Anita is going to go into a retirement home.
Yeah.
And
so now Otto knows all of this.
Yeah, and Otto Otto basically asks Anita for all the documentation relating to this.
Yeah, and she's just kind of caught off guard, like, how do you know this stuff? Don't worry about it, just let me help you.
But Otto doesn't have a phone because he cut off his phone line, and he doesn't have a cell phone. So he goes to Marisol and asks to use her phone, and she's like, you know what? No.
Yep.
Because you were mean. I mean, she's crying about it. Like, I know I just made it sound funny, but it's
left me. Like, I didn't know if you were okay. I was banging on the window on your door. You ignored me.
You know how long I was out there while pregnant.
Yeah, you did this to me. I care. You need to let people care for you.
Yeah, and so she shuts the door in his face, but then she opens it back up, and like she's like, you won't even explain to me like what you need the phone for, and then he explains.
And I love this scene. Sorry to cut you off, but I love this scene because he takes it. He lets her just get it all out. He identifies what she actually needs. He starts to care about her needs in this moment.
Well,
like, how do I make you, like, you're the one person in this world that kind of reminds me of a daughter. And so I've kind of adopted you, and I care about you, and, like, you're not an idiot. You're the one person who's not a complete idiot. And so he lets her just give it to him, and he takes it in, and he actually responds. And then he does what?
Well, no, he just stands there, and like his facial expression doesn't really change the entire time. He's just kind of
he's listening. He's taking it all in, so he knows what she needs, so he doesn't lose her.
And so yeah, she's like, you won't even tell me what you need it for, and then he explains like, I'm helping Anita and Ruben, save their house.
Yeah,
and she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but then like he also explains
everything.
Which really breaks her heart.
Yeah, he explains that
I turned off my gas and
what we that
we already do.
Yeah, well he explains that like that he intended on going up to be with Sonia, but like he explains to her and to us the full story. We already explained about the bus crash earlier, but and the paralysis. So he's finally explaining it fully to the audience and to Marisol.
Mm-hmm.
But also explains to her that Sonia died 6 months ago of cancer.
Yeah.
And basically he's just he in his words. He saw his world as black and white. Sonia was what provided the color.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but basically the implication is that now like the people, Marisol, her family, and the people around him, like he's starting to let them in a little bit.
A little bit. At this point, it's a lot.
Well, yeah,
and he
but
doesn't really realize how much until it continues. Like, everything starts to really make sense of how deep they are in each other's lives now.
But yeah, so Otto uses her phone to call the social media journalist.
Mm-hmm.
And basically they set it up so that when the real estate guy comes to take Ruben away...
It's going to be on film.
Yeah, so it's being filmed by her.
Live on our social media.
So, yeah, the journalist is, like, on camera, like, showing the...
We have the
but
agent here.
Malcolm is the one who's actually filming it.
Yeah.
But Jimmy is also in the doorway filming it on his cell phone as well.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the whole community comes out and starts yelling at the real estate guy.
Yeah.
Like explaining...
You're not welcome.
Yeah, like, hey...
You're not taking this house from him.
We don't want you here, blah, blah, blah. You know, Chris doesn't even really know his parents anymore.
Yeah.
All this
stuff.
stuff.
He has power of attorney. Not anymore.
Mm-hmm. You know, how do you have this private information about all of us?
And he just skips over it.
Yeah, and he just tries to ignore it, like, hey, turn those cameras off.
Yeah. You're coming with me.
Yeah, and they're like, you can't, like, he tries to say you can't take care of, you're not gonna be able to take care of Ruben for forever, and what happens when you can't even take care of yourself? And Jimmy's like, I'll take care of them. I have dinner with them like every night.
Yeah, and we didn't really realize how close they actually were and how, like, involved Jimmy actually is in different people in the community's lives.
Yeah, he says earlier that he used to have dinner at Otto and Sonia's like once a week, something like that.
Yeah.
Seems like Jimmy doesn't know how to cook for himself, so he just has other people in the neighborhood do it for him. But
that's pretty much how I felt wnever he said that. I was like, oh, you don't cook at all? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, but yeah. But yeah, so in the Dye Merica guy is like, well, you know, Chris has power of attorney, and you know, the journalist is like, you know, how long has it been since Chris has even seen, you know, his parents? The only information he could have possibly had, you know,
was fed to him by this agent.
Yeah, by you. And so he just drives. He's like, and drives away.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and so, you know, if this was like if this was kind of a cliched, like, you know, bitter old guy finds meaning in life again type of movie, this is pretty much where it would wrap up, with the whole neighborhood coming together and like, yay,
we did it,
you know, singing,
get our community back.
Yeah, singing Kumbaya and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie keeps going on, not for much longer though. So Otto, you know, basically, you know, he feels he has a new lease on life, gets more ingratiated into the community, starts going over to Marisol and Tommy's for holidays, and at the end of this, Otto goes, he basically kind of has a weird, I don't even think it's really a heart attack, just a problem with his enlarged heart.
He loses his breath basically and gets fainty.
Yeah, and he collapses. They take him to the hospital.
Yeah.
They're there, and he can't really talk. You know,
he's trying.
Yeah, he's trying, but he's just kind of grunting and making faces like
just yeah,
you know,
trying to move, but he can't.
But and so the doctor, so Otto tells the people at the hospital, like, he names Marisol his next of kin as his niece.
Mm-hmm.
And so
she gets to know everything going on with him.
Yeah, so the doctor tells Marisol, you know,
he hasn't.
His
heart is too big.
Yeah, Marisol finds this hilarious because
too
like
big.
Yeah,
him.
Yeah, but then she turns to Otto and she's like, "You're terrible at dying," and Otto's just like, you know. But then Marisol goes into labor.
Yeah.
And so she has her baby, And then we clip over to Otto getting out of the hospital and going over to the house to celebrate. And he brought the crib that he made for his and Sonia's child. He gave it a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah, and whenever he first shows up, she's like, okay, what am I doing wrong? What are you coming in here to correct?
Yeah, and
then she sees the crib.
Yeah, and then he hands her the baby, and he's like, "Oh, okay."
He hands her.
She hands him. Sorry,
Oh.
she hands him the baby, and he's like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And then the baby, it's not a movie where they get like a friggin' weird robot baby. You can tell it's an actual baby.
Yeah.
And it spits out the pacifier. And I don't know if they intended on doing that or if Tom Hanks just ad-libbed it where he's like, is this thing, am I supposed to put this thing back in its mouth? But he does, and then he lowers the baby into the crib, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna show you how this thing works. All right, you don't have to do anything. He starts rocking the baby.
He goes into grandpa mode.
Yeah, and again, you start kind of see the movie shows you pictures, but also kind of quick moments where of basically the neighborhood kind of acting like a family.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if
like
this
the
was
holiday and they're doing everything.
But again, if this was like that cliched bitter guy finds meaning in life movie, like this, this will be where the movie ends.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it keeps going. And
they got to wrap up everything. Like that's one of my favorite things of this movie is everything makes sense. Like there's nothing out of order that is just thrown in there for no reason. It has a purpose.
Yeah. So Otto, we see him typing on an old typewriter, which, fun fact, Tom Hanks is any writing he does, like any like professional writing he does on a typewriter.
I've tried to foster a community of typewriting people.
He collects typewriters. He loves them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he loves typewriters. Like
I hated them.
Someone actually got him to come to their wedding or birthday party or something by sending him a super rare typewriter. and he responded he's basically like in a joking way, like damn it, now that you've given me this awesome typewriter, I'm
obligated.
Yeah, I have to come. And so, but yeah, sorry. So that's just a fun fact.
We love your fun facts.
I know, but it's just, I don't want to get too diverted from the, summary that's gone on way too long already. But so we see him typing out a letter to Marisol. We don't know what the letter says. And he folds it and writes to Marisol and sets it on his nightstand.
His will.
Well, yeah, I mean,
with a letter, yeah.
You can tell. I mean, you can guess it's his will, but like he sets on his nightstand, but he continues going on, and he allows Marisol to help him box up Sonia's old stuff, except for her books, not her books, but her old clothes and everything.
Even though he doesn't read.
Yeah, he
I don't read.
He says in the earlier in the movie they just never got books.
Yep.
Just didn't, and
I don't read. That was her thing, but he keeps the books.
Yeah, and he gives his car to Malcolm, so Malcolm doesn't have to buy a Volkswagen, and he gets a new big old Chevy truck that him, the cat, Marisol, and all the girls can fit into, and so, but then. And you see him driving off with them over a hill, nice sunny day out. Again, this is where the movie would normally end. But instead, it clips over.
They need to clean up some more things.
We see Marisol and Tommy and the girls and their youngest son, having breakfast and stuff. And Tommy looks outside and notices that
Otto is not being his normal Otto self. He's not
he
out
literally
shoveling. He's not checking somebody's wrongly parked car.
Yeah, he looks outside. He's like, "Hey, Otto hasn't shoveled his sidewalk yet."
And Marisol's like, "What?
Yeah, he's not,
get the keys. Let's go."
And then he looks out, and then he's not doing his rounds at all. And then Marisol's like basically he's like,
this is it.
Yeah, grab his, grab his house keys, because obviously he would give them a spare set or something, and she starts running across, and and they find Otto collapsed on the bed. He didn't commit suicide. He died.
He died in his sleep.
They check him for a pulse, and they're like, and
that's it.
You okay?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were. It just looked like you were starting to get emotional. Sorry. I know her emotional, right?
Nope.
But yeah. So, and then they do the thing where she's reading his will, but it's Otto's voiceover.
Yeah.
And
we learn everything, like she gets the truck.
Yeah, she gets the truck.
Tommy's not to go near it.
Yeah. he literally says she's the only one allowed to drive the truck.
Yeah.
And also her and her family, they get all of his money, his house.
I never
everything.
bought useless crap.
Yeah, so he has a bunch of money tucked away, or his house and his truck. Yeah, his truck.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
And he instructs them that he wants a funeral, nothing grand or spectacular, just a small remembrance. Mm-hmm. And the journalist from earlier shows up and basically says that the community, does a whole thing where the community is mourning a local hero. Mm-hmm. And she turns the camera like, so how will you remember Otto Anderson? And it's Jimmy, and Jimmy says that him and Malcolm are, we're doing your rounds every day,
every lunch,
every day at lunch, and every weekend as well.
Mm-hmm.
And and the lunch thing is funny because throughout the movie, like, Otto just gets annoyed with people going to lunch all the time. It's really weird. Like it's like all people care about anymore is lunch. Yeah, it's just a random thing to be angry about. But so I found that funny, the fact that they're doing his rounds on lunch.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and so again at the end of the will, when he says that you're the only one allowed to drive this truck. Again, he pays her the highest compliment that he can give somebody in saying, because you are not an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And then it shows all of them loading up, and Marisol and all her family loading up into the truck and driving off. And that's how the movie ends.
Yeah.
So that's...
Just wraps everything together.
So if you're watching this without having seen A Man Called Otto, our brief but not very brief summary, like,
left,
we give you all the detail
unturned.
Yeah, we get. I mean, it probably runs too long, but like
we have fun.
Yeah, we want you to understand what we're getting at. We want you to pick up what we're putting down whenever we're talking about the analysis of the film. But also, we want just go and watch the movie. We hope what we tell you is you find intriguing enough to see it for yourself.
Yeah, a lot of people that I watch their visual, mainly on YouTube, they do reviews and they're just crying over this movie and how emotional it actually is. I know we got a little teary-eyed at one point because of just certain scenes hitting us a little too hard.
Yeah. And obviously, if you're someone who's dealing with suicidal thoughts or ideation, like, please talk to somebody, seek help.
Yeah, you are important and you do matter.
Yeah,
your life means something.
Yeah. Let's get into things that, as far as the story goes and the characters, like things that worked for us, things that didn't work for us, all that stuff. outside of an actual summary.
Okay, well, I mean, the reason why this was brief but not so brief was because everything had a purpose, and I love that. Like, everything down to the cat. Like, the suicide attempts, like, the very specific details of how, like, it seemed like he didn't really want to do it, but he wanted it to be successful. Like, it's very... Like, there's a lot of details in there that I felt like we needed to mention, so we could talk about, you know, that in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's like almost everything that happens in the movie just kind of unveils a new layer to Otto's character.
I think you called it an onion layers.
Well, yeah. Onion, cake, whatever you want to say. Like, he's like... At the beginning, like I said, he appears to just be it appears to be kind of a cliche, you know, bitter old man, you know, eventually learns how to be kind to the people around him again kind of movie. You know, we've seen it a bunch of times in a bunch of different ways, and there's nothing wrong with that story. It's just, it's been done a lot. And even if this was that story, you know, as long as you're bringing something new to the table when you're telling a story that's already been told, like, it's all good. Yep. But that's not the story. You know, the story is much more, and Otto is much more complex than that. And at least even more so than I originally gave the movie credit for, because I, you know, wasn't that enthusiastic about seeing it because I just thought it was that movie. But you told me how much you loved it, and you kind of convinced you kind of convinced me to give it a shot, and I did, and I really liked it. I still don't like it nearly as much as you, but I do find it to be a really good movie.
When it comes to writing, I'm very passionate, and you know that about me. And the writing in this was just so on par that I'm enthusiastic beyond belief. Yeah. Because everything just makes sense. Nothing is like a pointless detail.
But yeah, so like one thing about Otto's character is he's kind of a representation of almost like sort of a bygone era or age, like people that did stuff for themselves, that just knew how to fix their own engine, install their own build their own bookshelves, install their own houseware, appliances and stuff like that. You know, just literally like, you know, or maintain your own bicycles, like everything. Like the guy, you know, it's apparent that he's just kind of the guy in the neighborhood. Him and Ruben, before Ruben, you know, wasn't able to walk or do anything anymore, but
until his illness took over.
Yeah, like it's apparent that like they're the same kind of person who, you know, took pride in doing things for themselves, and you know, and like the opposite end of the spectrum is probably represented best by Tommy, Marisol's husband. He's an IT guy, so he's a computer guy. But as far as like everyday stuff, like we've said over and over again, fixing his own windows, installing his own dishwasher, just the day-to-day maintenance of a house, parallel parking, totally useless.
Yep.
You know, so I think Tommy as a character sort of represents the modern, you know, person by and large. Obviously, this is painting with a very broad brush. There's obviously people from like our generation who still know how to do stuff on their own, and
I feel like all the outside characters beyond Otto are all that way, because they're all, you know, they all pull out their phones, they all start recording stuff, like just like at the train tracks, like everybody was all about, oh, let's pull out our phones and record this, not help anybody.
Right. Or, you know, you could also say like Jimmy, because like he's concerned about his steps, like that's his exercise, not like
we all know one of those people.
Yeah, not
about their steps.
Not like actually working out, just, you know, getting steps in. You know,
the ones that are just swinging their arms.
Yeah. So
way too viciously.
even though Jimmy, he's not swinging his arms, he's taking really giant steps.
Yes, he is. Like that somehow makes it better.
But yeah, all the characters represent that in some way, shape, or form. But I think Tommy is like the
he really
most
takes the cake on.
Yeah,
that
he's
one.
the most clear example of somebody who, is just in tune with the technology of the modern era and knows like literally nothing about how to do stuff
Beyond
himself.
his years.
Yeah, and from a previous era.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have more on that? Or do you want to move on?
No, let's go to things we didn't like.
So you had qualms about the vehicle that he buys at the end of the movie. I don't really care, but you go and I'll explain why it doesn't matter to me.
It's all electric. It's still a Chevy, I get it, but it's an all electric vehicle. Like, is that how he like becomes more modernized? Is that how he's more accepting because he gets an all electric? Like, how are they going to even have time to charge that? Like, are they going to remember? Modern people know they don't remember to charge the dang vehicle. So it's just weird because he goes from classics to that.
So I think that's just kind of a representation of like Otto's arc. He goes from being very analog in a digital age to being eventually, and basically, like, he's not even remaining analog because he doesn't understand digital stuff. He's just doing it because he's stubborn and he thinks all that stuff, all that other stuff is idiot stuff. It's not that he doesn't understand digital stuff. He's just wanting to stay stick shift, analog, diesel engines, old-fashioned cars, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like buying an all electric, giant Chevy truck is sort of a representation of like his arc. Like he's opening his mind, he's embracing the change, and just kind of rolling with it instead of fighting against it so hard.
I mean, it didn't have to be electric.
I mean,
he made fun of hybrids earlier. He could have got a hybrid.
Right, but I mean, like, it's whatever. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like I said, it's just a hybrid or an electric truck would satisfy like the arc, I think.
Yeah.
But I know it's a
It's just weird.
Yeah. So something that didn't work for me, and you kind of disagree about this, is that to me, all the other characters besides Otto are pretty one-dimensional. It's not to say that they're badly acted. There's no bad acting in this movie, and it's not to say that they're not interesting characters. They're interesting characters. It's just they all, they're like basically the only person who goes through any kind of change is Otto, and to me that's the definition of like a flat character versus a round character. Like or a one-dimensional character versus a multi-dimensional character. Like Otto's the only character who changes, which I understand because the entire movie is about his change. I get that. But all the other characters basically don't go through any kind of change, like, in response to his change. Like, they're all pretty much the same throughout the movie, beginning to end. Like, he just kind of ingratiates himself more into their world. Like, he changes to accommodate them. They don't really change to accommodate him, outside of, like, Malcolm and Tommy doing his rounds and people learning, like him teaching people how to do stuff. But that's not a character change. That's just basically him giving them skills and stuff.
And I feel like not everybody has like full depth. Like Jimmy doesn't really have depth. I don't think Jimmy's supposed to have depth. But I feel like Marisol really does. Like she learns how to drive. She learns how to drive a stick shift specifically for Otto. She kind of develops this role of becoming like the daughter he never had.
I mean, she has depth, but she doesn't. She's still one-dimensional. She's still essentially the same character at the end of the movie as she is at the beginning. That's my point. Like, I understand. Again, being one-dimensional doesn't mean it's not a deep character. Doesn't mean it can't be an interesting character. It just means they don't go through any kind of change or arc or anything like that. Like,
not to the depth that he does. I understand that, but I feel like she did. She learns how to be like who he needs. Like, she, in the beginning, like, she's aggressive with her attention, and she wants to, make him be what she needs. Like, hey, you need to be a nice neighbor. And instead, like, she learns, okay, that's just Otto, and this is why Otto is the way that he is. And like, she, in the end, like, she knows something's wrong because he is not being who he is, and she accepts who he is. In the beginning, she did not accept him. Like, you are not going to be this way. You're not going to do this. And then when she goes off on him and he just takes it, he starts to change, and she also starts to change. So I feel like those two characters really have arcs to them. But that's just my own opinion.
I still disagree, but I understand where you're coming from. But, please, anybody who watches or listens to this, leave a comment, about if you've seen the movie or after you watch it.
Are you Team Allie or are you Team Howie?
I don't know. We need to make this adversarial. Just tell us what you tell us what you think.
And I know another thing I wasn't really a fan of because, Howie knows that I'm like a real animal advocate. Like, I don't like seeing the harming of animals. Like, if it's in a movie, you're going to upset me. And, like, I understand that the one character, like, she gets mad at the feral cat, but why are you throwing rocks at a cat? Like, just move on with your business. There's nothing you could do. Like, best you could do is provide it a home, which happened. It wasn't your doing, but it did happen.
I agree with you. So I think the function of that scene was to essentially show that Otto does have a caring side, because even though at that point he has no intention of taking the cat in, he's defending the cat from her.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree that they could have done that in a different way.
Yeah, just yelling, scaring the cat.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't have to be very much like, hey, get away from me, whatever. Like, she didn't have to actually chase it back to the porch and go off on it and throw rocks and all that stuff. It was just too much.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. But like I said, I believe that that's what the scene was meant to function.
I said, everything in this movie had a purpose. Even that had a purpose. I didn't like how it went down, but it did have a purpose.
Okay, so I said earlier at the very beginning that this movie reminded me a lot of the Christmas classic It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life, again, spoiler alert, but basically it's about a guy who wishes he was never born. An angel comes to visit him and essentially shows him what his local community, what his world would be like if he was never born, and he comes out of it kind of feeling like he has basically feeling better about himself. Like, hey, I've done a lot of good in my community without even really realizing it. And he comes away with a new lease on life. Yeah, new perspective. Yeah. And I find I think this narrative is very similar to Otto's, not necessarily the story as a whole, but Otto's like trajectory as a character, like, except it's kind of like almost like reverse, like Otto almost feels like that he's done as much good as he can do. But like the world has changed, so he doesn't really have the ability to do any more good because the world has changed and is filled up with idiots. And essentially he has to figure, and like as the movie progresses, instead of being shown that he has a purpose, like, you know, the movie, the other characters, the events all show him that he can have a new purpose, you know, without his wife, you know, in a more modern digital era, all that stuff. But again, the entire the core of both movies is just a man changing, you know, and getting a new lease on a new perspective, new lease on life, new like
realizes that he is actually important in the community and
Yeah.
he does matter.
Yeah.
And it goes back to, you know, people who feel like they don't matter and are considering suicide. Like,
Yeah.
you are important. You do matter.
Yeah,
People do care about you.
It's been a while since I've seen It's a Wonderful Life. I don't think he was suicidal. I don't because the movie, it's an old movie. I don't think they could go that dark with it. But like,
It's just intended.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, he just wishes he was never born. He doesn't want to kill himself. He just wishes he was never born. You know. But how do you? I mean, you haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life, so you don't get the full.
With that, what you just gave me, like, yeah, I completely agree that this movie, like, in the beginning, he doesn't see a purpose, and then as the movie progresses, he sees a little bit of a purpose for his life, like, he's helping these people out, and he's letting them in a little bit, but still, he just wants to be with Sonia. And then as it continues to go, he realizes, you know, hey, like, I actually want to be here, and I want to, like, spend time with my now quote-unquote grandkids, and this daughter I never knew I, like, could have, like, with Marisol and all that. Like, he finds his place in his community, and they all just become a big family, and he doesn't want to leave his family, and then that's whenever he finally gets to go to Sonia. So yeah, I agree. He finds his purpose, and that's the whole point of this movie.
So do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, like, I mean, we kind of went over it, the Asperger's thing. Like, he has so many just ways about him that seems like he has it.
Well, and I said this to you when we were talking, like, before we started the podcast. Like, I've had very limited interaction with people with autism and Asperger's. You know, I'm not a special education teacher, so I don't interact with kids like that. But I, you know, at least not like as I'm working, like in the hallways and stuff. Sure, but I've also had classes when I was in high school with kids with autism, and when I was in the military, you know, there were people I served with who were, you know, they told me they were on the spectrum. So my whole thing is, like, it's never said in the movie or the book or the Swedish film that we know of that Otto has autism or Asperger's or anything like that. If he does, it's extremely high functioning. You know, basically the biggest thing, the biggest hint that he might have it is his lack of ability to get social cues.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't know how to be empathetic, really. In the end, like, whenever he kind of takes them all in as a family, like, he develops some form of empathy, but in the beginning he has none.
Yeah, and like, and also, like, the exacting way that he wants to do everything. Yeah, that could be an indication of some form of Asperger's or autism. It could also just be OCD, but it could also just be something that was drilled into him by his dad, because, you know, in the few flashes that we get of his father, of Otto's father, it seems like his dad kind of drilled a lot of that stuff into him. Not like, I don't mean like violently or anything like that. Like they just,
they just made it such a routine that that's all he knows.
Exactly. Yeah, and so it could be that it could be kind of a combination of all the above. It's not really delved into that much, and we only found one review that claimed he had Asperger's. Again, nothing that we found as far as like the literature or the movies say that he does, but
yeah, nothing specifies, but a therapist who specializes in Asperger's and other forms of autism, like that's what they clarified was that he definitely has it, but nothing is confirmed.
But that also brings, like if he does have Asperger's or high functioning autism or something like that, it's a good thing that he wasn't allowed to be in the military. Like a lot of the people that I served with who were on the spectrum, like they joined because they thought like a military life would suit them, because everything has to be done a very certain way and all that stuff, and everything's supposed to be very regimented and and categorized and all this stuff. But like honestly, like that's what like movies and TV and stuff say about the military. But like honestly, like so much of your day in the military,
and wait, and then you get orders and they change about 30 times before it's actually correct.
Yeah, and it doesn't. So like the people I know who were on the spectrum that I served with, they were they were not doing well mentally, because like they'd be in the middle of doing something, like they'd have us doing something, and then orders would change, like you said, and then we'd have to go do something else, and they would struggle with the idea that like, no, what about this? We have to finish this, or
and we kind of saw that in the movie, like with the clown, like, I'm reading this book, why are you interrupting me? And he's already upset, and then the guy takes his quarter, and so now he's off his hinges. He is just completely losing his mind. And is it related?
Yeah, maybe. We don't know. I'm just saying, like, as a note for the story, like if he does have it, it's good that he wasn't allowed to, join the military.
I'm supporting your
thing. And again, if somebody out there is listening and feels the opposite way, by all means tell us, because I don't know everything. I'm going by, the very, very few people who I served with who told me that they were on the spectrum. And again, they just told me. I didn't look through their medical records, so I have no way of knowing. I'm just going by their word and by what I observed and what I know of autism and Asperger's from all the stuff that you have to learn about, stuff like that, to become a teacher.
Yeah. All right, guys, that is a wrap for episode 2, season 1,
episode 2. A Man Called Otto, starring Tom Hanks as a man called Otto. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, all the things with the stuff. We haven't decided what our next episode is going to be on, but we do know for a fact that it won't be a movie. We're gonna branch out,
try a different medium.
Yeah, we're gonna do a whole bunch of different mediums before getting back to movies. So it'll be a hot minute before we do a movie again. Yeah. But we're always open to suggestions. So
so just make sure to follow us, support us in any way, so we can keep going.
So if that's that,
we're out.
I'm Howie.
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
And I'm Allie.
Now that's the way the cookie crumbles. And we're the opinionated podcast.
Yep.
Not gonna do the thing.